welcome back. Today I'm going to be giving you my review on the Natasha Denona Mini Star Palette. This little guy right here. So I received this little palette here about 2 weeks ago maybe. It is something that I had wanted to pick up in my video All I Want for Christmas. I will link it up here in the cards and in the description box below. I mentioned that this was one that I really wanted to try and pick up. I have never tried Natasha Denona shadows or anything from the brand before, so this palette really intrigued me. I really liked the colors in it, and I knew it was going to be small. I wasn't surprised by that in any way, but I figured for $30 Canadian, I think it's 25 American, I figured that wasn't too much to put out to try this brand because it can get quite expensive. I know here in Canada most of her stuff is upwards of $150. Some of it's over $2 and $3 when you go into those bigger palettes that she has. So this was something I really wanted to try before, you know, maybe I did splurge and buy one of her other palettes. So yeah, I did pick this palette up, and like I said, I wasn't surprised by the size of it at all. It does come with 5 shadows, and they are quite small in the pan. Do I have anything here to compare it to? Here. They are quite small, and the only thing I kind of have kicking around here is an old SD card. So we all kind of know what those look like, and the SD card is bigger than the shadow. Both length and width, height, and whatever. So it is bigger, kind of comparable, but that's what you're getting when you get this palette. The shadows are each 0.8 grams or 0.028 ounces, and it has a shelf life of 24 months. And yeah, it does have the 5 colors. So like I said, I was super excited to get this. This was one of my wish list items that I really wanted to pick up this year. I had never tried the brand before, and I was intrigued by the colors. They're neutral, but I was intrigued honestly by this and one here, which is Orion, and this one here, which is Cosmo. So I have thoughts on this little palette. First of all, my opinions on this have nothing to do with the actual size of the palette. I knew what I was getting into when I tried it, and I feel like $30 as far as the brand is pretty reasonable for a palette of this size. So that did not reflect in my opinions. I was going to be honest with you all right now and tell you I don't even think it's worth the $30 for this little palette. And it's, again, not the size, not the quantity that you get, but the performance of these shadows. And one thing that I am really disappointed in is the fact that she charges so much for her palettes, the larger one. If you're going to charge that much for a palette, every single shadow better knock it out of the park. Don't put a dud in there. Don't put a so-so shadow in it. Every shadow should knock it out of the park. In my opinion, brands should be doing that regardless. If you have a formula that you feel that works, then put it in your palette. If you don't think it's going to work or it's not as great, don't use it. Don't waste people's money. But when it's such an expensive item, when you're looking at over $120, $150, $200, $300 for a palette, every shadow better be worth the money. And I don't think that this reflects well on the brand when they do that. I don't think that it reflects well on her as, I don't want to say as a person, but she put her name on that brand. And it just, I don't want to pay for your name. I don't mind paying for the prestige of it if the quality is going to be there, but not if it's going to be trash, basically. I feel that same way about Too Faced and Tarte and even drugstore palettes. I don't want to spend my money on something that's going to have duds in it. I don't understand why companies feel like it's okay. But when you get that high prestige price tag, I think it's a slap in the consumer's face to put something in there that isn't excellent. And that being said, maybe these palettes are a little bit different formula. But you know what? These are the mini palettes. These are your eyeshadow formula. They should reflect what your full-size palettes are like. They should reflect that formula. I'm not going to run out and buy one of those expensive palettes without trying this first, because that's a lot of money for me just to throw out. And chances are, unless you are a collector of Natasha Denona, chances are you probably would appreciate buying the smaller palette first to try it out or look at reviews and whatnot to see if it's something you're interested in before you go and splurge on that item. And even the larger palettes, especially the last couple, at least the tropical palette, and I haven't really heard anything too much about, I think it was the camel palette, but there's so many mixed reviews on it. And again, when you're putting that kind of price tag on an item, you have to deliver. So I'm not sure why this is happening. I don't know if she thinks the formulas all work. I'm one of those people who I don't mind a challenge with my eyeshadow. I'm one of those people who I'm like, people say you don't work, give it to me, I'll make it work. I have different tricks and tips that I use to try and, you know, get a shadow to work. I'm not one to easily like toss it aside and say it's garbage or it doesn't work or it's not worth it. So for me to come on here and say that I don't think this is $30, I don't think it's even worth $10 in my opinion. But I will get into that. Enough with the negative. Let me tell you some of the good things about this. The packaging is actually really nice. It's got like a gold metal plastic frame, but it's heavy duty. It's got some weight to it. And same with this lid here. I'm not sure if you can tell or not, but it's quite thick. It's a sturdy plastic. It's got a good click to it. You know, it's not magnetized, but it's tight. So it's not going to open. It's not going to fall apart. I don't have a problem with the shadows falling out or anything like that. Packaging wise, it's pretty good. When you open the palette, you have these 5 shades here. And they look beautiful. They're nice kind of neutral shades. You have this kind of grungy gold, antique gold color. You have this matte darker brown. You have this kind of champagne shimmer shade. You have this lighter tan kind of color that's matte. And then you have this blue-green duochrome kind of shimmer that you find in a lot of palettes. So I was really excited. I had seen swatches on this beforehand, and I'm going to show you my swatches. This is what the swatches look like. So I wasn't super impressed with most of these swatches to start off with when I first got the palette. Right off the bat, let me say that I really like the mattes. They are smooth and they are kind of creamy, buttery. They blend beautifully. If anything, the mattes, if everything in this palette performed as well as the mattes, I would run out tomorrow and buy one of her palettes if they had the same reviews. If all of her shadows were like that, in that consistency and that blendability and that kind of pigment and that feeling, I would support the price tag that she has on these products. So the mattes, beautiful, no problem. They weren't chalky, they weren't patchy or anything like that. They went on really, really nice. My problem is with the shimmers. I was really excited about this grungy kind of gold shade, and honestly, it just, for all the hype that I've seen from her palettes, I was expecting the shimmers to be like fantastic and just wow me, and just finger swatching them, I'm like, what's going on? I didn't understand. Usually if a palette's gonna have duds, it's usually in the mattes where they're patchy, they don't blend, or they're chalky, and that's in most cases shimmers are usually pretty good in a palette. I mean, you still get some duds here and there, but for Natasha Denona, I was expecting to be a lot more impressed by this. So being me, I'm like, I'm not going to judge it by the swatches. We're going to see how it applies to the eyes. So I wore a different look with each of these shades. I didn't take pictures or anything like that, but I will tell you my thoughts on it. The first day that I used it, I used a look with this. I used the 2 mattes and then I used this shade here. And I will say, the only good thing about this particular shade is the fact that a lot of times when you have a shadow like this with the blue and the brown or the red, it looks pretty in the pan, it looks nice in a swatch, but a lot of times I find when it gets on my eyes, and sometimes even in swatches, all that you're really seeing is that brown or that red coming through. This actually has a good decent amount of that blue coming through, which I find I don't get a lot, and that's what I'm more drawn to in these types of shades, is the blue poking through, and I'm always disappointed when I don't see that particular shade or that particular color kind of coming through. But this does it really well. I was really impressed with just, you saw the brown, but you also saw the blue. It was like a good mix of it. It wasn't one over the other. So this shade, when I was starting out, I put it on my eye and I was using a shader brush, but it had a little bit of fluff to it. It wasn't completely flat, and it wasn't really working for me, so it was going on patchy and I wasn't liking how it was applying. So I switched to a flat shader brush, similar to what a concealer brush would kind of look like, and I started packing it on, and then I tried to, I'm like, oh, maybe this is one where you have to like swipe it, and it was so patchy. And so I pulled out my Fix Plus and I used that, and I don't know that the Fix Plus helped it any. It was just another layer I was putting on, so it was kind of helping with the patchiness, but it was so difficult to use. I mean, I took at least 3, 4, 5 layers to get this built up to not be patchy. It wasn't that it wasn't giving me the vibrancy that I wanted, it was patchy, and I was mystified by it. I'm like, what is going on here? I couldn't get it to work. Even after I finally finished with the Fix Plus, I was just like, okay, we're done. I'm not gonna waste any more time trying to get this to be an even kind of looking nice kind of shimmer duochrome on my eye. So then I went to clean it up just a little bit, and I took some of this shade and this shade, and I just kind of worked it in my crease a bit just to blend it out a bit, and it just kind of flaked the entire blue-brown shade away, and I had to kind of go back in and pack it on, and it was a really interesting experience, let me tell you. I don't know if I've ever had that happen with a shimmer shade before like that. So that was my experience. Oh, and I always wear an eyeshadow primer, and this particular day I used my Essence eyeshadow primer, the I Heart Stage, I Love Stage, and I never have a problem with that. I know some people do, but I really like that eyeshadow primer. I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't make my lids look crepey or anything like that, and I don't have a problem with the shadows lasting with it in general. But this, I'm not sure at what point it started to break down, but when I went and took my makeup off that evening, it had only been on for about 7 hours. And when I went to take my makeup off that evening, it had noticeably creased and just worn off in my crease and on my lid. So not the kind of longevity that I was hoping for either. The same thing happened when I wore this shade right here in the middle. I did the same sort of thing. I used these two in the crease and the as a transition, and then I just put this kind of as the main color on my lid. And putting it on my lid, I was like, okay. It was just kind of, I'm like, it's Natasha Denona. This should be like, wow, this is pretty. It's so sparkly. It's so vibrant. It's so this. It's so that. But it was just like, So I took some Fix Plus and I tried to build it up, and it did a little bit, but not enough that I was like, oh yeah, this is so pretty now. And you know, at first I was giving it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm like, okay, well maybe she had people in mind who don't like that vibrant look. Maybe she's like, you know what, we'll make it a little less, you know, that sparkle and that oomph, or whatever you want to say that these shimmers sometimes have, and we're gonna just tone it down a bit so people that don't really want that can enjoy it, but then people who do like it can build it up. But it didn't really build up. It did a little bit, but not enough that it was worth the extra effort. And I mean, playing devil's advocate and saying that, but in reality, I just think it's a crummy shadow. I don't think she intended it to be that way, because she's known for some of her shimmer palettes, and they're outstanding. They are stunning, those formulas. You put a swatch on, or you put it on your eye, and you watch these videos, and you see these Instagram posts of these people with these shadows on their eyes, and you're like, I want that. Mind you, that's from some of her older palettes, and I have heard people say that they think she's changed her formula, and if this is any reflection on her brand, I would have to say yes, because people raved about those older palettes. No one had a problem spending $300 on these huge palettes and whatnot, but I think they would if you had the quality of this. So the next time I wore this, I decided to go for this green, and in the pan, this is something that I think is gorgeous. I don't really have anything else like it in my collection, and I had swatched it, and I'm like, ooh, it's not giving me much hope, much promise to this shadow, but I'm like, I'm gonna try it. I switched it up a bit. I used the Milani eyeshadow primer, and I did the same thing. I used this in my crease, this is my transition, and I put this all over the lid. And it is, it is so hard to work with. It is so sheer, and it goes on patchy, and it wasn't as bad as this, but it wasn't good. It was like, it was not worth the money. I don't understand. I don't know what she's doing. I will have to say that with the Milani eyeshadow primer, it did seem to hold on a little bit better at the 8-hour mark when I took my makeup off. It still looked really nice, and I was able to build it up kind of to what I wanted. I was still hoping for a bit more, but again, I didn't get it. And in each case, I did end up using a flat shader brush. I tried packing it, I tried swiping it just to get it to work, and it was so hard. And I think that's the thing that bugs me about this. It shouldn't be that hard to make something like this work. That's why you pay for stuff like that. Not just for the name, but you're paying for it because you're trusting that the name is gonna, you know, the name is bringing a certain quality to it. And for it to get a palette with 2 good shades, 2 shades, and 1 garbage shade for $30 does not reflect well on that company, especially when she has such expensive eyeshadows. Yeah. I'm happy I bought it. I'm happy I tried it. Having had this experience, will I go and buy any of her palettes? Absolutely not. And I think that is a bad marketing decision on her if she has changed the formula in these compared to her higher end palette, or her more expensive palettes. Because someone like me might go out and drop that kind of money on it, but I am not after purchasing. Now, I'm not upset that I spent the $30 on it. I think it was money well spent to try something, especially before I drop $150 on a palette that I might not like, or I might like half the shadows, or I just don't know. I don't understand. And I think that's why I haven't heard that much about her latest few palettes. But yeah, I haven't, since the Tropic palette that she had come out, I haven't really heard anything. I know that she had the Safari palette and she has like the mini Camel palette that came out. But yeah, I haven't heard anything, so I'm wondering if people that have bought it are just not impressed and are just not saying anything, or, you know, maybe I'm just missing those particular videos. But I'm glad I paid, I'm glad I bought this so that I could experience, because I was really looking forward to trying it and having something of hers in my collection. But yeah, I can't recommend it. I wouldn't even say it's worth the $30 for the 2 shades you get that are really good in this. No, not at all. And it makes me sad to say that, because I wanted to love it. Those are my 2 cents on the Natasha Denona Mini Star palette. Let me know if you have tried this palette or any of her other palettes and what you think of them. I know a lot of her older palettes that were like that blue-green palette and those sort of things, the ones that were like the $300 mark kind of ones. I know those ones were talked about and raved about so much. But yeah, I have heard a lot of mixed reviews lately on her products, so I would like to know if you have tried anything of hers, and specifically eyeshadow palettes, because I'm not sure what her face or complexion products are like, or that sort of thing. I was mainly going for this. So I would like to know your thoughts on Natasha Denona, and if you've tried it, and anything recently especially, what your experience has been and how you feel about the price of it, and just, you know, brands putting out products, not even her, but putting out products, and, you know, how did it go through quality control? You know, how did it go through quality control with this many shadows that don't work, or with even one shadow that isn't really usable, or that sort of thing. This isn't a video to bash Natasha Denona in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, this is the only item that I've ever tried from the brand. I think brands need to be more conscious on what they are putting out to the consumer, and I think if they're going to be super expensive, they better make sure they're delivering on everything. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope this video was helpful. I don't know if I want to say I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.